Hi everyone, in this video I want to discuss how to self-manage your portfolio with the least amount of work needed. This is for people who are retired and think maybe they could manage their own investments rather than paying their financial advisor 1% each and every year. In this video I'm going to show you some funds that will help you simplify things and really reduce the amount of work you need to do. As a retiree, you should have a plan for how you're going to tax efficiently withdraw from your investment accounts. For most people, that means withdrawing from your bank and brokerage accounts first, then your tax-deferred accounts like IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, and then finally from your Roth accounts. For the accounts that are not near the top of your priority withdrawal list, then I say invest in something that you can set it and forget it. Set it and forget it investments are funds like target date funds, balanced funds, target risk funds, or lifecycle funds. The names vary depending on the company offering the fund, but essentially they all do the same thing. They rebalance themselves based on a set of rules without you having to do any work. The first type of fund I want to talk about is the target date fund. Most people are familiar with target date funds because that is the typical default fund that's in a 401k when you start your job. One of the simplest ways to manage your portfolio in retirement is to leave your 401k with your employer. And if you have a good selection of funds, like a target date fund that has a low fee, then there's really no reason for you to roll over your IRA and make things more complicated. If you currently are invested in several different mutual funds within your 401k, you could move everything into the one target date fund, and that would simplify things for you. With a target date fund, it's critical to look at the allocation within the fund. I often find they're a little bit more conservative than I think they really should be based on the retirement date. Typically, your target date funds at the retirement date, like 2025 this year, those would be very close to 50-50 portfolio. But I think retirees should be a little bit more aggressively invested, closer to 60-40. So oftentimes with a target date fund, you should go out 5 years farther than what your actual retirement date is. When you are self-managing your investments, you need to think of your portfolio in its entirety. And so if your 401k is more conservative, maybe that's a good idea because your brokerage account has lots of individual stocks in it or a lot of stock funds. So you need to think of everything together as one and try and balance everything according to each allocation and size of each different account. Determining the allocation of a target date fund can sometimes be tricky. Sometimes they are combinations of other funds which themselves have different allocations, so it can get kind of complex. You should be able to find the allocation if you log into your company website. All that kind of detail should be there. Another place you might want to look for the allocation information is Morningstar. Something to be aware of with target date funds is they get more conservative with each passing year until they reach an income fund level, which means about 30% stocks. It's not really a major concern because you're likely going to be checking on your overall portfolio allocation maybe once a year, but it is something to be aware of. Another type of fund you should consider if you're going to manage your own portfolio as a retiree are self-rebalancing funds. This includes things like a balanced fund or a defined risk fund. At Fidelity, these would be things like the Fidelity Asset Manager series. This series of mutual funds has a specific target in terms of stocks and bond allocations, and if it gets out of whack, then it rebalances itself. Another example of a self-rebalancing fund at Fidelity would be the Fidelity Puritan Fund. You can see on here that it's got a 5-star Morningstar rating and an expense ratio of 0.48% per year. Another possibility would be Fidelity's Balanced Fund. Again, 5 stars on Morningstar. If we click on the portfolio of the Balanced Fund, we can see that it is just a little over 60%, maybe 62% stocks, and then 39% fixed income. Two funds at Vanguard that rebalance themselves are the Wellington Fund and the Wellesley Income Fund. Also, Vanguard does offer a balanced fund. Another offering at Vanguard that's really handy to use are the Vanguard LifeStrategy funds. And there are 4 different funds, and they have a set allocation that they rebalance to. They're shown on the screen here: the Income Fund, Conservative Growth Fund, Moderate Growth, and Growth Fund. By using these set it and forget it type of funds in your tax-deferred accounts or in the accounts that you're not going to be withdrawing from, then you can greatly reduce the amount of work you need to do as someone who's going to self-manage their own investments. Investing is something that you can simplify and make it a lot less complex, and therefore less likely that you need to pay a financial advisor 1% per year every year. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.